There are certain phrases that get passed down through generations like heirlooms. Phrases that parents say to their children, believing they're expressions of love and care and wisdom. Phrases that feel to the parent like necessary guidance, like protection, like doing what a good parent should do. But these phrases land differently than they're intended. They land not as love but as judgment, not as care but as criticism, not as connection but as distance. And slowly, quietly, without drama or announcement, they push adult children away. The parents don't realize it's happening. They keep saying the same things, meaning them as love, wondering why their children call less, share less, visit less, trust less. Wondering when the distance grew so wide, never quite connecting it to the words that seemed so harmless, so necessary, so loving. My name is Annie, and I've lived on both sides of this. I've been the child who heard these phrases from my own parents, feeling the sting while they remained oblivious to the pain they were causing. And I've been the parent who said similar things to my own children, meaning them with my whole heart, not understanding until too late that I was creating the very distance I feared most. This is about those words, the ones that sound like love but function as weapons, the ones that seem like concern but act as control. The ones that parents keep saying, generation after generation, not realizing they're echoes of harm that nobody taught them to stop repeating. The phrase, "I'm just worried about you," seems so innocent, so reasonable. What parent doesn't worry? What parent shouldn't express that worry? But the truth underneath those words is often more complicated, more painful. Because "I'm just worried about you" often translates to something else entirely. It translates to, "I don't trust your choices. I don't believe you can handle your own life. I think you're making mistakes. I think you're going down the wrong path. I think I know better than you do what's good for you." When a parent says this to an adult child, the child hears all of those translations. Even if the parent means none of them, even if the parent genuinely is just worried, coming from a place of love and fear, the impact remains. Because worry, when expressed repeatedly, becomes judgment, becomes a vote of no confidence, becomes a message that the child, even as an adult, is not capable, not trustworthy, not competent to run their own life. I remember my own mother saying this to me constantly, about everything. My job, my relationships, my apartment, my finances, my health, my choices. Every conversation included at least one, "I'm just worried about you." And each time she said it, something inside me closed a little more, because I wasn't asking her to worry. I was just sharing my life. Just trying to maintain connection. Just being honest about what was happening. And her worry, her constant expressed concern, made me stop sharing, made me edit myself, made me present only the sanitized version of my life that wouldn't trigger her worry, which meant presenting almost nothing real at all. The relationship became performative, became surface level, became me telling her only the things that wouldn't cause concern, which meant telling her almost nothing that mattered. And she wondered why I'd become so distant, why I called less, why I shared less, why I seemed to be living a life she knew nothing about. She never connected it to the worry, to the way her concern, expressed over and over, had taught me that honesty led to anxiety, hers and mine. That sharing struggles meant being met with fear instead of support. That being real meant being judged as not handling things well enough. As the years passed, I watched this same pattern in other families. Friends who stopped telling their parents about job changes because every change was met with, "I'm just worried about how stable that is." Adult children who stopped mentioning relationship problems because every mention was met with, "I'm just worried they're not treating you right," or "I'm just worried you're settling." People who stopped discussing health concerns, financial situations, life decisions, all because the worry that greeted every share felt like a weight instead of a comfort. There's something else I still think about. The phrase, "when I was your age." This one feels like wisdom sharing, like offering perspective from experience, like providing context that might be helpful. But what it actually does is dismiss. It dismisses the reality that times have changed, that circumstances are different, that the challenges an adult child faces now are not the same challenges their parents faced decades ago. It erases the validity of current struggle by suggesting that if the parent could handle it back then, the child should be able to handle it now. When a parent says, "When I was your age, I was already married with 2 kids," what the adult child hears is, "Something is wrong with you for not being at that same place." When a parent says, "When I was your age, I bought my first house," what the adult child hears is, "Your financial struggles aren't real because I managed just fine." When a parent says, "When I was your age, I worked 3 jobs and didn't complain," what the adult child hears is, "Your exhaustion is invalid and your complaints are weakness." These comparisons ignore reality. They ignore that housing costs have skyrocketed while wages stagnated. They ignore that student debt exists at levels unimaginable in previous generations. They ignore that the economy has fundamentally changed. They ignore that cultural expectations have shifted. They ignore that mental health awareness has transformed what's considered normal versus what's considered struggle. They ignore all of it in favor of a simplistic comparison that does nothing but make the adult child feel inadequate. I remember another moment from my own history. My mother comparing my life milestones to hers. She'd been married at 22. I was 30 and single. And she'd say, so casually, "When I was your age, I'd been married 8 years already." Not meaning it as an insult. Just stating a fact, just making conversation, just reflecting. But it landed as judgment. It landed as, "Something is wrong with your life. Something is wrong with your choices. Something is missing. Something is delayed. Something is less than." And I couldn't explain to her that marriage at 22 wasn't something I wanted. That waiting felt wise, not delayed. That building myself first felt important. That the cultural script she'd followed wasn't the one I was choosing to follow. Because explaining that would mean criticizing her choices, would mean suggesting her path wasn't the right one for everyone. And that conversation felt too difficult, too fraught. So I just absorbed the comparison. Let it sit inside as another piece of evidence that I wasn't living up to expectations, that I was disappointing her, that my life was wrong. Another memory returns to me now. The phrase, "I'm only saying this because I love you." This one is particularly insidious because it uses love as justification. It weaponizes the relationship. It makes love conditional on accepting criticism. Because what follows that phrase is always criticism, always judgment, always unsolicited feedback about how the adult child is living their life wrong. I'm only saying this because I love you, but I think you're making a mistake. I'm only saying this because I love you, but have you considered that you're being too sensitive? I'm only saying this because I love you, but I'm concerned about your weight. I'm only saying this because I love you, but I don't think that person is right for you. Every single time, the phrase acts as a shield, as permission to say hurtful things, as an excuse that supposedly makes the hurt acceptable because love is the motivation. But love doesn't require criticism. Love doesn't need to point out flaws. Love doesn't have to offer constant feedback about how someone could be different, better, more aligned with expectations. Real love can witness without judging, can support without directing, can be present without needing to fix or change or improve the person being loved. When a parent uses love as justification for criticism, what they're really saying is, my love is conditional. I love you, but I'd love you more if you changed. I love you, but I'm disappointed in who you are. I love you, but you're not quite right yet. And the adult child absorbs that message, learns that being themselves isn't enough. That love must be earned through becoming who the parent wants them to be. That acceptance is always just out of reach, always dependent on the next change, the next improvement, the next step toward becoming more acceptable. I remember being on the receiving end of this so many times. My mother's constant, I'm only saying this because I love you, followed by commentary on my appearance, my choices, my lifestyle, my everything. And each time I wanted to say, then don't say it. If you love me, just accept me, just be happy with who I am. But that felt impossible to articulate, felt like asking for too much, felt like being ungrateful for her love and concern. So I stayed quiet, and the distance grew. And then, sometime later, I became a mother myself. And I understood, for the first time, the fear that drives these phrases. The absolute terror of watching your child make choices you think are wrong. The desperate need to protect them from pain. The agony of seeing them struggle and not being able to fix it. The overwhelming urge to share wisdom, to guide, to direct, to prevent the mistakes you've already made or witnessed. That fear is real. That love is real. That desire to help is genuine. But understanding the fear doesn't change the impact. Doesn't change that these phrases, no matter how well-intentioned, create distance instead of closeness. Doesn't change that they hurt instead of help. Doesn't change that they push away instead of draw near. There's something else I still think about often. The phrase, have you thought about? This seems like such a gentle question, such a soft suggestion. But what it implies is enormous. It implies that the adult child hasn't thought about whatever obvious solution the parent is about to suggest. It implies that the parent sees something the child has missed. It implies that the child needs guidance because their own thinking is insufficient. Have you thought about getting a different job? Yes, of course they've thought about it. Have you thought about going back to school? Yes, they've considered it extensively. Have you thought about moving somewhere less expensive? Yes, they've run the numbers a dozen times. Have you thought about therapy? Yes, they're aware that's an option. Have you thought about trying harder? Yes. They're already trying as hard as they can. The adult child has thought about all of it, has considered every angle, has explored every option. And the parent's question suggests they haven't, suggests they're operating with blind spots, suggests they need the parent's superior wisdom to see what they've somehow missed. It's condescending, even when that's not the intention. It treats the adult child like a child, like someone who needs basic prompting to consider obvious solutions. As the years continued to pass, I watched myself do this with my own children, watched the words come out of my mouth before I could stop them. "Have you thought about?" Followed by some suggestion they'd absolutely already considered. And I'd watch their faces close, watch them retreat, watch the conversation end not because they were being difficult, but because I'd just implied they were incompetent, that they hadn't done the basic work of thinking about their own life, that they needed my intervention to see what was obvious. Learning to stop asking that question was one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it felt like staying silent meant not caring, meant abandoning them, meant withholding help. But eventually, slowly, painfully, I learned that staying silent was actually trust, was respect, was acknowledgement that they were capable adults who didn't need my constant input, that they could figure out their own lives. That my job wasn't to direct anymore, but to witness, to support when asked, to be present without being intrusive. Another memory surfaces now, the phrase, "you're so sensitive." This one invalidates feelings entirely. It takes whatever emotion the adult child has expressed and labels it as excessive, as wrong, as overreaction. It says, "Your feelings are the problem, not the thing that caused them." It puts the burden of adjustment on the person who's hurt rather than on the person who caused hurt. When an adult child says, "That hurt my feelings," and the parent responds with, "You're so sensitive," what's being communicated is, "I'm not going to adjust my behavior. I'm going to continue doing and saying whatever I want, and if it hurts you, that's your problem to fix. You need to be less sensitive. You need to toughen up. You need to stop having such strong reactions to things I consider minor." But feelings aren't chosen. They're not controllable in the way this phrase suggests. And labeling someone as too sensitive teaches them that their emotional reality is invalid, that they should suppress, that they should hide, that expressing hurt will be met with dismissal rather than care. So they stop expressing, stop sharing, stop being honest about impact. And the parent wonders why emotional intimacy has disappeared, why the child never shares what they're really feeling, why everything has become so surface level. I remember my own mother saying this to me repeatedly. Anytime I expressed hurt or disappointment or pain at something she'd said or done, her response was, "You're too sensitive. I didn't mean it that way. You're overreacting." And each time I learned that my feelings were invalid, that I was the problem, that being hurt by her words meant something was wrong with me, not with what she'd said. So I stopped telling her when she hurt me, stopped trying to explain impact, stopped hoping she'd adjust or apologize or even acknowledge that her words had effects. And then, as a parent myself, I caught those same words coming out of my mouth. When my own children expressed hurt at something I'd said, my first instinct was to defend, to explain that I hadn't meant it that way, to suggest they were being too sensitive, to make their feelings the problem rather than examining my words. It was a reflex. A pattern passed down. An echo I didn't even realize I was creating until I saw my children's faces close, saw them retreat. Saw the same distance I'd created with my own mother beginning to form between me and them. There's something else that keeps returning in memory. The phrase, "I just want you to be happy." This sounds pure. Sounds like the most loving thing a parent could say. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's genuine and open-ended and truly about the child's well-being. But often, when parents say this, what they mean is, "I want you to be happy in the specific way I think leads to happiness. I want you to make the choices I believe will result in happiness. I want you to live the life I think is the happy life." When a parent says, "I just want you to be happy," but follows it with criticism of the adult child's actual choices, their career, their partner, their lifestyle, their values, what they're really saying is, "I want you to be happy, but not like this. Not this way. Not with these choices. I want you to be happy the way I would be happy if I were you," which isn't about the child's happiness at all. It's about the parent's vision, the parent's values, the parent's definition of what a good life looks like. An adult child who's happy in a way their parent doesn't understand or approve of will still be met with this phrase. "I just want you to be happy," said in a tone that implies they're not, or they won't be, or they can't be, given their current path. The phrase becomes a tool for expressing disappointment while maintaining the appearance of caring. Becomes a way to criticize while claiming the high ground of just wanting the best. I remember another moment that sits heavy in memory. My mother saying, "I just want you to be happy," while making it abundantly clear she disapproved of nearly every choice I was making. The job she thought was unstable. The apartment she thought was too expensive. The relationship she thought wasn't serious enough or was too serious or wasn't with the right kind of person. Every element of my life met with this phrase, used as a preamble to explaining why my choices were wrong. And I wanted to ask, do you really want me to be happy? Or do you want me to live the life you've decided would make me happy, regardless of what actually brings me joy? But asking that felt too confrontational, too harsh, too much like accusing her of not loving me properly. So the question stayed unasked. And I continued living my life, making my choices, finding my happiness in ways she couldn't recognize or validate. And the distance continued to grow. As the years moved forward, I learned something crucial about all of these phrases, something painful but necessary. The phrases aren't really about the adult child at all. They're about the parent's fear, the parent's need for control, the parent's inability to accept that their child is a separate person with a separate life that doesn't need to align with the parent's vision. The phrases are the parent's anxiety, expressed outward, landing on the child as criticism and judgment and conditional love. Understanding this didn't make the phrases hurt less, but it did make them make sense. It explained why logic didn't work, why trying to reassure the parent didn't work, why explaining that everything was fine didn't work. Because the phrases weren't actually about the stated concern. They were about the parent's internal struggle with letting go, with accepting that control was an illusion, with trusting that the child could handle their own life, with tolerating the uncertainty and fear that comes with loving someone who makes their own choices, some of which might be mistakes. There's another phrase that echoes through families, causing damage nobody quite names. The phrase, "don't you think?" This is advice dressed as a question. It's direction pretending to be inquiry. Don't you think you should look for a more stable job? Don't you think you're spending too much time on that hobby? Don't you think you should settle down? Don't you think you're being too hard on yourself or not hard enough? The phrase gives the illusion of respecting the adult child's autonomy, gives the appearance of just asking, just wondering, just raising a question, but it's not a real question. It's a statement of what the parent thinks the child should do, phrased in a way that's harder to push back against. Because if the adult child says, "No, I don't think that," they sound defensive, difficult, unwilling to consider other perspectives. The phrase puts them in an impossible position. And over time, these questions accumulate. They build into a wall of implied criticism, a constant stream of suggestions that the adult child's choices aren't quite right, that they need guidance, that they're not seeing things clearly, that the parent knows better. And the adult child learns to share less and less because every share is met with another "don't you think?" Another redirection, another implication that they're getting it wrong. Another memory returns to me now, watching my own mother interact with my children, watching her say to them the same phrases she'd said to me. "I'm just worried about you. When I was your age. Have you thought about?" And watching my children's faces. Watching them learn in real time that sharing with grandma meant being met with judgment, meant being redirected, meant having their choices questioned, and watching them begin to edit themselves, begin to share less, begin to create the same distance with her that I had created. And I wanted to intervene, wanted to protect them from those phrases. But I was also guilty of saying similar things myself, was also learning to recognize my own patterns, my own echoes of harm, my own ways of pushing my adult children away while thinking I was pulling them close. There's something profoundly painful about recognizing yourself in the patterns you swore you'd never repeat, about hearing your own mother's words coming out of your mouth, about watching yourself create the same distance you experienced and hated, about understanding, finally, that these phrases are handed down like genetic traits, that nobody teaches parents to stop saying them, that the cycle continues until someone deliberately breaks it. Breaking it is hard, is painful, requires constant vigilance, requires biting your tongue when every instinct says to share your worry, your advice, your wisdom, your concern, requires trusting that silence is sometimes the most loving thing, that not saying the phrase is a gift, that allowing adult children to make their own choices, even ones you disagree with, is respect, is trust, is real love. I remember the first time I successfully stopped myself from saying one of these phrases. My adult child was sharing about a situation at work, something difficult, something that triggered every protective instinct I had. And I could feel "I'm just worried about you" forming in my throat. Could feel "have you thought about?" ready to spill out. Could feel all my fear and anxiety and need to fix and protect rising up, demanding to be expressed. But I stayed quiet. Let them finish. Let them share the whole situation without interruption, without redirection, without my worry or advice or judgment, just listened. And when they finished, I said something simple, something neutral, something that didn't try to fix or change or redirect, just, "That sounds really hard. I'm sorry you're dealing with that." And I watched their shoulders drop, watched tension release, watched them relax in a way they didn't when I offered advice or expressed worry, because I'd given them what they actually needed. Not solutions, not concern, just witness, just acknowledgement, just presence, just love that didn't come with conditions or corrections or commentary. That moment taught me more than years of advice giving ever did. Taught me that most of the time, adult children don't need parents to solve their problems. They need parents to believe in their ability to solve their own problems. They need trust. They need respect. They need to be seen as capable adults instead of children who still need constant guidance. As the years continued, I got better at stopping the phrases. Not perfect. I still slip sometimes. Still feel the old patterns trying to assert themselves. Still catch myself about to say something I know will create distance instead of connection. But I'm more aware now, more conscious, more willing to examine my motivations before speaking. More willing to ask myself, is this actually helpful or is this just my anxiety needing expression? There's something else I think about often now. The adult children who have already created distance, who call rarely, visit less, share minimally, who have built protective walls between themselves and their parents, and the parents who wonder why, who feel confused and hurt and rejected, who don't understand what happened, who just wanted to help, who just expressed concern, who just loved their children and wanted the best for them. Those parents usually can't see the connection between their words and the distance. Can't recognize that the phrases they meant as love were received as judgment, that their concern felt like control, that their advice felt like criticism, that their questions felt like accusations, that their worry felt like lack of trust, that all of it, accumulated over years, taught their children that being authentic meant being judged. That sharing meant being redirected. That closeness meant being changed. And the tragedy is that both sides are hurt. The parents feel abandoned. The adult children feel unseen. Both want connection. Both want love. Both want relationship. But the patterns stand in the way. The phrases continue. The distance remains. And neither side quite knows how to bridge it because neither side fully understands how it formed. The bridge, if there is one, starts with recognition. With parents recognizing that their words have impact even when that wasn't the intent. With understanding that love expressed through criticism isn't experienced as love. With accepting that adult children are adults who don't need or want constant input. With learning that trust means staying quiet sometimes. That respect means allowing choices even when those choices feel wrong. That real love witnesses without judgment, supports without directing, cares without controlling. And it requires adult children to find ways to communicate impact, to explain as gently as possible that certain phrases hurt, that certain patterns create distance, that certain expressions of concern feel like judgment, to risk the difficult conversation, to name the dynamic, to ask for change, even knowing that change might not come, even knowing that parents might not understand, even knowing that the request itself might create more conflict. The relationship between parents and adult children is one of the most complex relationships that exists. It spans decades, spans enormous changes, spans the transformation of the child from dependent infant to autonomous adult. And somewhere in that transformation, the relationship has to shift too. The parent has to learn to step back, to trust, to witness instead of direct, to love without trying to shape, to be present without being intrusive. Many parents struggle with that shift. Struggle to stop seeing their child as someone who needs their guidance. Struggle to accept that their role has changed. Struggle with the fear that if they're not actively involved, actively concerned, actively advising, they're not being a good parent anymore. Struggle with the irrelevance that can come with aging, with watching their children build lives that don't include them in the way they were once included. And so they keep saying the phrases, keep expressing the worry, keep offering the advice, keep making the comparisons, keep using love as justification for criticism, not because they're malicious, because they're scared, because they don't know what else to do, because these phrases feel like connection even when they're creating distance, because staying silent feels like abandonment, because the only way they know how to express love is through concern and guidance and involvement. But learning a new way is possible, is necessary, is the only path to maintaining relationship with adult children who need space and respect and trust more than they need advice and worry and direction. It requires letting go of control, accepting uncertainty, trusting that the child will figure out their own life, make their own mistakes, find their own path. It requires the parent to find their own identity and purpose separate from parenting, to build their own life that doesn't depend on being needed by their children. This is hard work. Is grief work? Is letting go work? Is trusting work? Is loving differently work? But it's the work that creates space for real relationship, for authentic connection, for the kind of bond that doesn't require the adult child to pretend or perform or edit themselves into acceptability, for love that's unconditional, for presence that's wanted instead of tolerated, for conversations that feel like connection instead of evaluation. I've learned, slowly and painfully, that the phrases I thought were love were actually barriers to love. That my worry, expressed constantly, taught my children not to trust me with their struggles. That my advice, given freely, taught them I didn't trust their judgment. That my comparisons meant as motivation, taught them they weren't enough as they were. That all of it, every well-intentioned phrase, created the distance I feared most. And I've learned to speak differently, to listen more and talk less, to ask real questions instead of questions that hide judgment, to express confidence in my children's abilities instead of concern about their choices, to say, I trust you instead of I'm worried about you, to say, that sounds hard instead of have you thought about, to say, I'm here if you need me instead of I think you should, to say, I love you without the but that turns love into criticism. These new phrases don't come naturally. They require practice, require intention, require constant awareness of old patterns trying to reassert themselves, require grieving the role that used to be and accepting the role that is now, require faith that less involvement doesn't mean less love, require trusting that adult children can handle their own lives even when those lives look different than expected or hoped or planned. But the new phrases work. They create space instead of tension. They invite sharing instead of shutting it down. They build connection instead of distance. They allow relationship to evolve into something between equals instead of remaining stuck in the parent-child dynamic that no longer fits. They make it possible for adult children to call not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire for connection. To share not the edited version, but the real version. To trust that they'll be received with love instead of judgment. If any of this resonated, if these reflections stirred recognition or memory or hope for change, I'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a like and subscribe. There are more honest conversations here, more gentle examinations of the patterns that shape relationships, more reminders that awareness is the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening. And may we all find the courage to speak differently, to love more freely, to trust more deeply. Our children deserve that, and so do we.